Uh, Good morning, sir. Myself, Sathik Chandran. I'm 19 MIS 107. My topic is on the digital certificates and X.509 authentication services. So basically, this is an outline of my DA. That's the digital certificates, authentication application, certificate authority, fields and the formats, and what is meant by the certificate revocation. So this slides covers what is meant by authentication and the certificate authority, X.509 and the revocation. So basically, what does authentication means in generally? Generally, authentication means that it's verifying the user identity. Like if two users want to communicate with each other in beforehand, they need to establish communication between them. That is authentication. Like if A wants to send a message to the B, there should be a connection between them. So that connection we call it as authentication, and the process of verifying it also known as authentication services. Like if A wants to send a message to B, the A need to show the should be authenticated with B, and the B also need to be authenticated with the A, so that the communication gets started. So how can we achieve this mutual authentication? So there are many different ways where we can achieve the mutual authentication, and one of those ways are X.509 certificate. As we know, in an authentication or any process of it, there are two keys. Like one is the private key and one is the public key. If one key is used for encryption, obviously the other key is used for the decryption. So in this, the public key is open source key, as you all know it, and the private key is a non-shareable key. And these two keys are available with every user, and every user has the public key as well as the private key. So the public key is publicly accessible, and the private key is non-shareable and which is used for decryption, and the public key is used for the encryption. So how to maintain this public keys? So one of the certificate authority, that is certificate, there is a certificate authority which helps in maintaining this, is only one of the option to maintain all the public keys. There is only one option to maintain this public key, and that's the certificate authority. Before going depth into the certificate authentication, let's look into the introduction of X.509. So X.509 is a part of an X.500 directory services, and basically it was issued in 1988, and later it got revised in 1993 and also in 1995. What does it define? It defines the framework of authentication services, like authentication services using X.509 directory. What is meant by a directory? A directory is a place where we can find all the parts of it, and it is also called the X.509 is also called as the repository of public key certificates, right? And based on the use of public key cryptography and the digital signature, it also recommends in the use of RSA. So digital certificates. What is digital certificate? A digital certificate is an assertion. That is a certificate authority signature. And what is assertion? It can be anything. Usually identity assertion can also be a list of authorizations too. So what is meant by certification authentication? Certificate authorization is someone who signs a certificate. Like if you want to get graduate from one institution, you need to have a degree of your institution. In the same way, this is a sign which has a certificate of it. And also known as a public key is famous for this to be useful. Thus, a certificate is a cryptographical proof that this authorization believes in assertion. Like in the same way, your degree that proves that you have a bachelor degree from this so-and-so university. So this is a flowchart where the user public key and the user identity key for get hash code of the raw key, and it gets converted into hash code. And this hash code is encrypted using the certificate authorization private key so that it get encrypted hash code. And this encrypted hash code is appended to the raw certificate, that is the user public key and the user identity key. And this certificate consists of the user public key, the user identity key, and also a signed signature to it. If these two encryption and decryption gets matched, then it is meant that it is authenticated. So let us know what is a certification authentication loop. Basically, certificate authentication is a third party which is responsible for sharing public keys. We all know it, and the main point is that it is not responsible for generating the public keys. It is only known for its public key, but is not responsible for generating the public key. It provides a easy access to all the public keys and for all the authentication, as it provides because it's a trusted third party and all the user should have a trust on it because it's providing the certificates. However, these certificate authorizations have an access to the public key and how it is providing the authentication for all the users. So the certificate authentication will generate a signature. And what is signature? A signature is an encryption using the private key of the sender side, and that's called as a signature. But it is not responsible for generating public key. Both the certificate authorities provide a signature. So this process, it goes like a user key encrypted with hash key, and the hash key is decrypted, also encrypted with ACA private key, and the private key is appended to the raw certificate. So what is the file form? These are file format of a X.509 certificate and the revocation list. So the X.50 certificate has a version, serial number, signature algorithm, issuer name, period of validity, that is a before and after validity, subject name, subject public key information, the issuer unique identifier, and the subject unique identifier, extension as well as signature. Before going deep into it, and what are the parameters which are helps in providing a certificate? Here, the X.509 is one of the certification directory. What is a directory? A directory is responsible to provide all the certificates in a single phase so that every user can access it and certificate from all the directory. In order to authenticate, one user has to decrypt the calculated hash code and the normal hash code, and they compare the decrypted hash code and the calculated hash code. If the both gets matched, so the user will be authenticated. Like once the certificate are generated, all the certificates are placed in one directory called a certification directory or a public key directory. So what is fields? Going to the format of this, what is a version? A version is something which is available for the certificate. And basically the versions are of three types: version 1, version 2, version 3. So before telling about the version 1, version 2, and the version 3, let's discuss about the serial number. What is serial number? Basically, we know the serial will be always a unique number. So here also, serial number is a unique serial number which is given to each and every certificate. Every user has one certificate generated and also one serial number generated to it. And what is signature algorithm identifier? Also called as the algorithm with a parameter. It gives an algorithm which is used for which certificate and which certificate generation signature. Issuer name. Whom are we issuing the certificate? So in this case, whom are we issuing the certificate? We are issuing a certificate on the behalf of the certification authorization itself, the issuer name. And the period of validity. The period of validity has both that, and not before and the not after. It tells us about the validity of the certificate, till which date the certificate is validity, till which after which date the certificate is not in a validity stage. And next is a period of subject name. Subject name is a user name to which the certificate is issued, and the subject public key information. It consists of the public key of the user and the identity. Issuer unique identity. For every issuer, that is every certification authority, there will be one unique identity. And the user subject unique identifier is a unique identity for all the users in the network. And what are the extensions? If you want to extend something in your certificate, you can use that at the time of the extension. And the signature. A signature is the main one here. It consists of all the hash codes, algorithms, the encrypted, the decrypted data, and it consists of all the remaining encrypted hash codes of all the above remaining fields. So here, I already said previously said that versions. There are three versions: version 1, version 2, and the version 3. And the version 1 is from the version field to the issuer unique identifier field, and the version 2 is from the version to the extensions, and the version 3 is from the version to the signature field. And signature algorithm identifier also consists of two types: the algorithm and the parameters. And I also said a period of validity is like a not before and the before. And coming to signature algorithm identifier, so as the algorithm and the parameter, the issuer's name, this updated date, the next updated date. The revocation is something that we are extending our validity, and also has the updated date, the next updated date, and the revoked certificate. the user updated certificate serial number and the revocation dates, and the revoked certificate, that is the user certificate serial number and the revocation date, and signature, that is the parameters, algorithm, and encrypted data. So certificate revocation list. They are basically two basic models of it, and one model is polling and another model is pushing. What is polling? The current CRL, that is a certificate revocation list, is requested by the certification of the user when he or she needs a key on the digital certificate. It is issued. A pooling is issued. So what is the problem in it? That is a time delay between the revocation and the publication. And the second method is pushing. When the new CRL, that is a new certificate revocation list, is delivered by the certification authority to the user, as soon as the new revocation occurs, one problem it arises, that is the storage of the new pushed CRLs, even if it is irrelevant and the danger, the interpretation and the deletion is done. So there are few authentication procedures. The three authentication procedures, though the basic summary of it is, each uses a public key signature. Each assumes that there are two parties known to other public keys, and either obtained from the directory or obtained from the initial messages. So there are three types. One of this type is one-way authentication, where if you want to establish a connection between A and the B, a single transfer of information from one user A to another user B, they need to establish the following. That is the identifier of A and the message generated by A. That is, we should identify the A and what is the message need to be sent to the B. The message is intended to be, that is, a message is sent to the B, the integrity and the originality of the message. And the two-way authentication. In the two-way authentication, if A wants to send to B, and the B will also reply back to the same way. In the addition of a two-way authentication, establish the following: the identity of the B, the reply message is generated by B. Like if A wants, the A gives a reply, A gives a message to B, and after reading the message, the B wants to reply, and that's done in this two-way authentication. That is the target of the first message, like the reply of the first message, the integrity and the originality of the reply. In the three-way authentication, A sends the B, then A also sends the another message B, and the B reads the data and gives a reply to it. That is, the final message from A to B contains a signed copy. That is, whatever the message is sent to the B, the copy of it is maintained, and the B reads the message, and the B gives a reply back to the A. That is, the final message from A to B is contained a signed copy on the nonce RB received from the B. It eliminates the need to check that timestamps. It is also used when the synchronized clocks are not available. And before going to this, before the validity and the even certificate should be revoked, mainly the certificate is used for mutual authentication. This is a point to be highlighted, and the vulnerability and exploits of this X.509 in 2005 shown that how to use the hash collisions to construct two X.509 certificate with identical signature and the different public keys using a collision attack on the MD5 hash functions. And also in 2008, presented a practical attacks to create a rule that is, a certificate authority accepted all the common browsers by exploiting the issuing of X.509 certificate based on MD5. In X.509 certificates based on SHA-1 and SHA-1 appear to be secure until April 2009, when the researchers produced a method to increase the likelihood of the collision. There are implementation errors in the X.509 that allow, example, falsified subject names using null terminated strings or code injections, attacks in certificates. The implementation suffers from the design flaws, bugs, and the different interpretations of the standards and the lack of interoperability. Many implementations turn off the revocation checks and the policies are not enforced. That's just one, and thank you very much.